Hey guys, this is Ray, owner of Double R Diesel. Welcome back to the channel. Hope you guys have been doing well. It has been a little while since I've done a video like this. Just simply hasn't been a lot going on the diesel side of things, and I've been busy with gasoline stuff, trying to make an honest living and pay my bills. But something did happen yesterday that I thought was interesting enough to do a video on and get your guys' opinion on. So, as you may or may not already know, I own a business called DRP Motorsports, and that's pretty much focused on Ford gasoline tuning. I do a lot of tuning and modification on Mustangs with the Coyote 5.0 liter, Ford F-150s with the Coyote, also Mustangs and F-150s with the EcoBoost, and other Ford gasoline vehicles, but that's primarily what I do. Anyway, I had a customer ship a car from Louisiana for me to do some work on, and he used a local guy that he knows that hauls cars, does hot shot work, as you may be familiar with that, to bring me the car. Anyway, so yesterday the car arrived, and when the guy pulled in my shop driveway, I noticed he was driving a Dodge Ram 2500 truck, pulling a gooseneck trailer with the car on it. So got situated, got the car unloaded, got to talking with the driver, and then I noticed the truck had an MM3 tuner on it. The truck is completely deleted, emissions free. And being who I am, I asked him, I said, hey, I said, I couldn't help but notice you got an MM3 tuner on the truck, and the truck's obviously tuned. Who did your tuning? And long story short, he was like, well, some guy in North Carolina done my tuning. Had to go through a form to, get his tuning, so on and so forth. And I was like, well, would it be Double R Diesel by chance? And he said, yeah, that's who done it. And I said, well, you're talking to him. He didn't know who I was in person by face. And, that was pretty awesome for somebody to be bringing me a Mustang to be worked on, being pulled by a truck, which I tuned a good while back. So the story on this truck is, and this is the really cool and interesting part, the guy purchased the tuner from me, come to find out, back in 2017. And the truck, he would just started out hot shot driving, and he had only had about 100,000 miles on the truck at the time he tuned it. He was having emissions issues. So he bought a tuner from me in a package, and the truck got, deleted. That was 100,000 miles roughly. Well, when the truck pulled in my driveway yesterday, truck had a little over 720,000 miles on it. That's right, 720,000 miles on it. And so I was like, wow, that's, you put a lot of miles on your truck since it's been tuned. I said, well, tell me what kind of issues it had with it, because, I haven't talked with any of my customers that, in a while that had a good number of miles on their truck, and this is probably one of the highest that I know of. He said, well, tuned the truck back in 2017. He says, I haven't touched it since it's been tuned originally. He said that he has had to replace the 68 RFE in it one time. He replaced it with a built, high performance unit. But it was, it used a stock valve, line pressure valve body, but he, had heavy duty clutches and so on and so forth in it. And that's all he's done to the truck. He said that he has never turned a bolt on the engine, said it's still running on the factory injectors at 720,000 miles. No, he said, as far as the truck goes, he's had to rebuild all the steering components on it. So the front end of the truck, ball joints, steering linkage, track bar, that kind of stuff to get it to drive better. But he said, other than that and replacing the transmission, that's all that's been done to the truck. So the truck has run over 600,000 miles with Double R Diesel tunes on it, deleted. And, I'm going to make my case here. I'm sure I'll have some people that would argue with me. And, I'm sure there's documented cases, where trucks have gone, a million miles probably with the emission system still intact. But 600 plus thousand miles tuned, over 700,000 miles on the engine, and it's still running on the stock injectors. No problems with the engines, no failure whatsoever. I think that just goes to testify how good our tuning has been over the years, and the fact that ridding the emission systems, most importantly, helps these engines last longer trouble-free. Now, like I said, I'll just go circle right back. I'm sure there's trucks out there with emission systems still on them that have gone 700,000+ miles total without a major drivetrain issue. But I can promise you this, the emission systems themselves in that kind of mileage would have had to been serviced numerous times, I feel sure. You know, I'm sure the EGR would have had to been replaced, serviced, cleaned out. I'm sure that the DEF injector, the SCR, I'm sure the DPF, all that stuff would have had to been replaced, serviced multiple times in that many thousands of miles, hundreds of thousands of miles. So this guy, the only expense he's had in his truck outside of fuel and routine oil change and filter change maintenance is just replacing the transmission and rebuilding the front end on his truck. It was a 2016 model 2500. I'll try to post up a picture in this video so you can see it. Very modest truck, but it's been working very good for him, and I thought it was just a great thing to see. You know, it made my day yesterday to see a truck that I had tuned go this many hundreds of thousands of miles trouble-free. And I thought it was awesome, and I think it just, you know, goes to prove the point that deleting does serve a purpose as far as making a truck reliable for somebody who is trying to make a living with their truck. I'll just say this, as far as other news goes, I mean, it's still not legal to delete trucks, but a bit of information here I did want to add is a Wyoming senator by the name of Cynthia Lummis has introduced a proposed piece of legislation called the Diesel Truck Liberation Act of 2025. The numeric term for the proposed legislation is Senate Bill 3007. Be sure to check that out. I'll try to put some links here in the video description as well to it. So basically, this is in response to Troy Lake. I don't know if you remember me talking about him. He was incarcerated by the government for providing delete tunes and services. Anyway, from the state of Wyoming. So his senator has done this in response to him being punished for violating the Clean Air Act. And she's simply trying to get some attention drawn to it. And I hope this bill can ultimately make it to the president's desk. You know, in reality, you know, looking at the grand scheme of things, it has a low chance of making it to the president's desk. But if you guys will step in and start letting your elected officials know that this is quite possibly very important to you, and start making more noise, I think it can gain more and more traction. And who knows, the hand of God blows his blessings upon this bill. You never know what can happen. It could make it to the president's desk. You know, like I said, that's in God's hands, and it's also in the hands of you guys to contact your elected officials and see what can be done. But anyways, guys, I thought I'd share that little bit of information with you. I thought it was really cool to see a truck that pull in my driveway that I tuned many years ago, run this many hundreds of thousands of miles trouble-free, and the proof was in the pudding. So as always, guys, thank you for following along. God bless each and every one of you, and we will see you again very soon.